What's up, guys? Welcome back to the rating climb. Average Joe is 939, and we are climbing, seeing how high we can get with this account. I am talking through the thought process pretty much every move, and let's just jump right into it. So we're getting a pawn out in the center. He's attacking me, so I'm going to defend, and I'm going to defend with a piece, so I'm developing and defending at the same time. Usually, if you can do multiple things at the same time, that's a great strategy. Okay, so he's probably going to go for the potentially the fried liver attack if I play knight f6. I could also prevent that by playing bishop c5, and notice that the queen will cover that square so the knight can't go there. However, I'm okay with the fried liver attack. I have a nice little line that we could play here, so I'm going to let them do it if they want to. This is pretty common at this rating range, I think, so we might see this, or maybe they're just going to castle. Or okay, d4 is a good move, just getting the pawn in the center. So what you will notice is they didn't defend the e4 pawn, so we could take that. We could also take here. We kind of have quite a few options, or we could do something else. Now, most of the other options I don't think are going to be so great. Usually when your opponent starts putting pawns in the center, you want to react and do something. Otherwise, they're just going to have a big center, and they're going to have all these options to push your pieces around and capture and do things like this. So I think what I'm going to do is just take it. And there's one move here, e5, that we have to understand how to respond to, because this could be a very dangerous move for us if we don't understand the principles here. So we'll see if we see e5. And the idea is we want to play d5. Okay, we're not going to see it. The reason you play d5 here is because you need to get your pieces out, and you also shut down this very powerful bishop. So yes, you'll lose a knight, but then you get a bishop, and if he takes here, you just recapture, and that's actually a really good position for black. Okay, so that was the idea there. Bishop g5, he's obviously just pinning the knight. So what am I going to do? Well, we need to develop quickly. Okay, when you're playing these e4, e5 gambit openings, developing as fast as possible is very, very important, because you'll notice white already has 3 pieces out. I'm doing pretty good. I have 2 pieces out, but I probably can't get away with playing moves like a6 and h6 in an opening like this. I need to get the pieces out quickly. So I'm thinking about bishop to b4 because it comes with a check. Now, there is this move c3 I could take. If he takes back with the pawn, I do lose a tempo on the bishop, which I don't love, but then I could probably just retreat, and I've kind of messed up the pawn structure a little bit for white. So that's not a bad option, bishop to b4. I guess I could go even bishop e7 right away, just dealing with the pin, getting a piece out and getting ready to castle. That also looks pretty good. So do I want to be a little bit more aggressive here with bishop to b4? Do I want to play more passive? And I guess I'll go with the aggressive option here, bishop to b4 check. Kind of like the look of that, so let's go ahead. And we do see c3. And let me just verify that there's no tricks. But yeah, this is a very powerful threat, so I think this is a good move. I'm going to take here. Notice I'm threatening. I was threatening to take there with check, and then I would take the rook and get a queen. So that was a big deal. So he does take back. And I could go to c5. This is a nice aggressive square. But what you will notice is it's undefended. And there's lots of tricky ideas where the bishop sacrifices and I end up getting forked with the queen. Now, I can't right now because my knight is guarding that, but I do have to be very careful. Bishop e7 looks pretty good because we just deal with a pin. Now, again, there's this e5 move, but if the bishop's on e7, then I think my knight can start jumping around, and that's probably going to be okay. It's going to be a little tricky. I'm actually not totally sure if I've seen this position before, but my instinct is telling me bishop e7 is a good place just to get out of this annoying pin, all right, and give myself options. I can move my knight wherever I want to. Okay, they just castle. So whenever you have a free pawn, you always have to ask yourself, can I take the pawn, right? If I take, what's going to happen? Well, he's probably going to take me. Let's say I take back with the queen. Rook to e1, lining up. That looks pretty dangerous, right? Putting myself into a double pin there. Don't really love that. I won't be able to play d5. He just takes me. I could play f5, but now I'm really weakening my king. I don't think it's worth taking that pawn. I think it's more smart for me to, I think it's smarter for me to just castle and get the king out of the center. And now he does play e5. Okay, so usually when I see e5, I want to play d5 to counterattack, right? Because I showed you before how that was a good deal. In this position, though, does it work? What do you guys think? The answer is no. And the reason it doesn't work now is because he's going to take a piece. Yes, I could take a piece back, but then he's going to take another piece. So at the end of the day, I lose 2 pieces and I only get 1 piece. That's not a good trade for me. Okay, so I can't do that anymore. All right, can't take it because it's defended. So I think I have to move my knight. And now you see why it's important that the bishop is here. Otherwise, I would be in some trouble with the pin, right? So where do I want to move the knight to? I think knight to e4 looks pretty solid. It attacks the bishop. It's a nice centralized square. One thing about the knight being on e4, sometimes it can get trapped there, but it looks like I'll be able to jump over to c5 if I need it. And so, yeah, I think I want to go to here. I guess you could also make an argument that g4 is not a bad idea to try to take the pawn on e5, but it seems like that might be pretty easy for white to defend. So I'm going to go with e4 instead. And I'm expecting that we're going to see maybe a trade here. I'll probably just take with the queen. But so far, I think our opponent's been playing pretty well. They've developed their pieces very nicely. They've castled. They haven't really done anything wrong. So far, pretty good game, I think. All right, let's go ahead and recapture with the queen. I don't really want to retreat my knight if I don't have to. And this brings my queen out to a more aggressive square. And now we have a threat on the pawn here. And I can go along this diagonal if I need to. Okay, and he does attack the knight. So you can't play f5 because it's a pin. d5 makes no sense. I would just get captured. So I do think I need to move the knight. g5 is an option. Might lead to a trade. c5 is an option. It's not really sure where the knight's going from there, but it seems like a relatively safe place. So let's just decide, would I rather trade these knights or would I rather keep the pieces on the board? And, yeah, it's not a super easy question to answer. I mean, I don't think there's any... I'll go to c5. I don't know. We'll just keep some pieces on the board. I think both of these moves were probably fine, but we'll go here. And what is the big problem in my position? Well, it's this bishop on c8, okay? This bishop on c8 needs to get out. So I think since it looks like d6 or d5 is going to be hard to play, right? If he takes me here, then the rook is lined up. I don't really like that. Same thing with d5. That just loses the pawn also. But I'm thinking of b6 and maybe just fianchettoing this guy over here. That seems like a good place for this bishop. And so that's what I'm probably going to do next. Okay, knight here. He might be trying to come here. We could trade. Yeah, let's just go ahead. b6, get the bishop to b7. And then I'll probably think about bringing my rooks to the center. And this is usually the moment in the game where a lot of these 900, 1000 rated players will start to make mistakes, right? They've developed the pieces. Now they have to kind of figure out what to do next. Okay, so he goes bishop d5. Looks like a decent move. I don't think it changes my plan any. I think bishop b7 still makes sense. Counter-attacking this bishop here. Not counter-attacking, but lining up on the same diagonal. Defending the knight. And it is defended by this knight, which is important. So if I need to move my knight, I can. I'm not going to be losing a piece. So that's kind of an important detail. All right. So yeah, now I actually am thinking about maybe trading. So whenever somebody has a really powerful piece in the middle of the board that's kind of annoying you, and you have a piece that's not that great, trading them off probably makes a lot of sense, right? So moving this knight and allowing this trade, I think, would be a good decision for me. The question is, where do I want to move the knight to? I could go to b4 or a5. a5 is kind of nice because we put the pressure on this pawn. And it's also defended, so I don't have to worry about any tactical tricks or ideas. Here's, maybe I want to go to d3, but I don't, yeah, I think I'm going to go to a5. We're going to try to trade off these pieces, his powerful bishop for my, not so powerful bishop, and also target the isolated pawn. Okay, isolated pawn, no pawn on the either side of it, makes for a good target, okay? Now, if he takes me, I have a tough decision because normally I would probably bring the knight that's on the edge of the board towards the center. But in this case, I like the fact that the knight is pressuring that pawn, like I just said. So I'll probably make an exception to the rule and take this way in this particular situation. Although, yeah, you could argue that this might be, yeah, they're both probably fine. So we'll see if he's going to take. Doesn't have to, obviously, but... And, you know, the time is getting a little bit lower. Ooh, e6. So I am going to keep an eye on that. Usually I have a point in my mind, which for me is about 2 minutes where I'm going to start really speeding up. But until then, I'm just going to keep playing regularly. Okay, e6 looks like a free pawn to me. So I'm probably going to just take that. Maybe he wants to jump in with his knight or something, but probably not worth a pawn. The question is, which way do I want to take? This way is nice because we open up the rook. This way is nice because we keep the king a little bit safer and we open up the d file, which also looks pretty good. So either way looks really nice. And yeah, I'll just take this way. Both looked fine, honestly, but I like this getting a rook here and pinning the knight to the queen and just getting control of all these important central squares. I like the way that looks. Okay, so yeah, I just said I was going to take this way to keep the pressure here. I think I will. I like this. This is kind of annoying for white because they have to keep the knight there guarding it. Yeah, I'm going to keep the pressure on that pawn. Okay, they don't. They don't guard it. So I'm probably just going to take the pawn. Let me just check. Was that creating any major threats? Not really. I mean, maybe the knights are coming over here. Maybe the queen's going to come out, but I would have some time. I could play h6, g6 and kind of deal with that. So, yeah, I think I'm going to grab the pawn. Go ahead and do that. And one extra pawn, it's all it takes to win a game, right? If you imagine if I'm able to just trade off these pieces and we go into an endgame with an extra pawn, that pawn could become a queen and I win. Or that pawn could be a decoy, right? And then the king has to go get it and I use my king to take other pieces or something like that. So that's all you need a lot of times to win. Okay, so we could move the knight. Or I could do an in-between move here and attack the queen, which kind of looks nice. Could go here to defend, just try to keep, or even just b5, just to defend that knight and create an outpost. Looks pretty good too. Yeah, maybe I will do that. Rather than retreating, I'll just defend that guy. And if this pawn gets attacked, just defend that one. I could even use the C pawn as well. And so this is just a really nice looking knight. It's blocking off the rook. Rather than retreat and allow the rook to invade my position potentially, I'm just going to support it. Okay, and make use of those extra pawns that I have. I actually have 3 extra pawns. How did I get 3 extra pawns? Oh, because they gambited one and never got it back, I guess. I know they sacked this one and this one. Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay. So I'm about to hit that 2-minute mark. The game is not over yet, so I will start moving faster. That's a pretty good time management strategy, I think, for a lot of people. When you're playing a game, at the start of the game, just pick a time where you're like, okay, when I hit this time, that's when I'll start to speed up. But prior to that, take your time and, make good moves. Okay, so I am going to be careful here because queen h5 might cause me a little bit of problems. So I think what I'm going to do is play h6 right now. Now, there's an interesting move, queen h5 anyway, takes, and he still has the checkmate threat, which is actually a legitimate threat, which is interesting. Now, wait a second. There's this move f5. The idea is the knight moves, I take a knight. Aha, okay, I think f5 looks good. Very tricky. Queen h5, I could still play h6. I know I said I was going to move faster, but this is a critical moment. So yeah, I am going to go f5. Very tricky position because queen h5 is a serious threat. But f5 actually gives me a couple of options here. I could play g6. Look at this idea, guys. Allowing the queen to come over and defend, okay? And also creating these multiple threats. Or I could play h6, blocking off the queen and also threatening here and here. But either way looks pretty good to me. Yeah, he does go queen h5, yeah. So g6 or h6, which one's better? Oh, you know what? If I go h6, he goes here, threatening the checkmate. I take. He jumps in with the other knight. That would not be good. So I do think I need to go g6 here. Wow, what a tricky position. Yeah, let's go g6. You got to be careful. These knights and the queen on my lone king over here is very dangerous, right? And so, because the knight on f6 is a good defender, knight is not there. And so I have to be a little bit creative here. Knight f6. Okay, so he wants me to take with the queen so he can checkmate me. I see. But I don't have to do that. I take with the rook. And he's running out of pieces here. So nice little attack there by our opponent. It doesn't quite work out for them. But I like the way they're playing. I do like the way they're playing. Okay, which one should I take? This or this? Well, a queen is better than a knight. Yes, there's a discovered attack, but there's no checks with the knight. And so go ahead and take the queen, and we're in good shape. Yeah, well played by our opponent. I think they would have gotten a lot of people at this elo range with that queen h5 move. So nice try. All right, queen is under attack. Let me just sidestep it. Notice I'm also monitoring the knight, so the knight can't invade. And so that's why I quickly just went there, because it gets away from the rook, but also keeps an eye on this guy. And it's defending e8 if I want to bring this over and fight for control. Okay, he just goes back. That's a free piece. We'll just take it. And As long as we don't lose on time, it should be a pretty easy game. But yeah, okay, and they do resign. So yeah, let's check the game review here, see how did we do on that one. All right, 85, not too bad. Might have had a couple of inaccuracies in there, but overall, pretty nice game. And it's really important, guys, that just because you get into a good position doesn't mean that you can relax, right? Like right around here, I have to be careful. You know, if I'm just like, he's not doing anything, it's no big deal, and I just play a random move, you have to be careful. Now, Stockfish is saying you play h6 and you're totally fine, but this is a very dangerous situation. For example, if, I don't know, so if I take this, I have to be really careful, right? I could still lose this game if I'm not paying attention, right? Checkmate. Okay, so just make sure you're planning for those things when they pop up. All right, let's go to the next game. All right, we're white. What do we have on our list here of things to play? We haven't played the Ponziani in a while. It's on my list, or the Halloween Gambit. Okay, unfortunately, we don't get a chance. He's going to play the Caro-Kann. All right, well, we're going to get 2 pawns in the center. I don't believe that I have any openings on my list. So I'm going to show you the Gambit that I like to play against this. Knight c3. Most people are going to take you. And we're going to put our bishop on c4. Oh, he doesn't take. Okay. This is not the normal move. Most people who play the Caro-Kann do take you. I believe one of the reasons is because now we can kind of chase that knight around, and I don't know how good that's going to be for black. So let's just go ahead and do this. Pretty much everybody takes. Yeah, this is probably... Huh. So here's what I'm thinking. First of all, can I take this and win the pawn? Like, is there some way that I can, you know, like attack this pawn and just get a free pawn? It's maybe not that easy because I don't have a clear path to attack it. Like if I move my queen, then I lose this pawn. So that's probably not the way to do it. This is too slow. I don't want to spend 2 moves just to try to put pressure on one pawn that maybe I win, maybe I don't. That seems like it's just not a good idea. For example, bishop g4, just immediately pinning me, and now I'm all tied up already, all because I made the decision to try to win a pawn. So I'm going to forget about that, and I'm going to try to think about a different strategy. So bishop d3 to attack, maybe takes and just develop quickly. I actually haven't seen this before, so I'm not really sure like what the best approach is. I could even just develop my piece right now, just play something like knight f3. That's not out of the question. Let me think about bishop d3. I kind of like that just to force the knight maybe to trade here, which I think I would be happy with. Bishop f5 looks like it might be dangerous for black for some reason. Yeah, I'm going to go with bishop d3. Basically, going back to the principle of let me create a threat and develop a piece at the same time. That's it. Just create a threat, develop a piece at the same time. He does trade. Okay, and I'm actually happy for this. You might say, but Nelson, now you have doubled pawns, you have an isolated pawn. But here's the deal. I also have an open B file, half open B file for my rook, and I have this really nice support of my center. So if he takes me here, guess what? I recapture, and I have another pawn ready to go, and it's just really solid for my center. Okay, so that's a benefit when you take a side flank pawn and you bring it towards the center, you get more control over the center. Okay, he might be thinking of pushing here. Not a big deal. I'll just probably go back. And so, yeah, I think I'm just going to develop my pieces. I don't think there's any, excuse me. I don't think there's any reason to do anything else. Let me just go knight f3. Now, c4 is a little bit annoying because normally I would like to keep my bishop on this diagonal, and I'm not going to be able to. I have to go back here, but still think it's probably fine. Excuse me, my voice. Okay, h3 is one of those moves that I tell people not to play at the beginner level if you need to develop your pieces and whatnot. But in this case, it kind of forces black to make a decision. Are you going to trade, or are you going to go back and then give me the option to really attack on the king side if I want? I like having that option, so I am thinking about h3. I'm also thinking about a move like just bishop g5, bishop a3, rook b1, just activating these other pieces. All these moves seem like they make sense. But no, I am going to start with h3. There's also another idea here that I'm looking at, which I'll see if we get a chance to talk about. Because when I'm pinned, okay, my pieces are kind of tied up. When I relieve the pin, now I'm nobody's tied up. Okay, my knight couldn't have moved before. My queen really couldn't have moved unless I was willing to let the bishop take and mess up my pawn structure. But now I've freed up my pieces. Okay, yeah, e6 is probably a good move because I was thinking about playing e6 myself, sacrificing a pawn. If he went back, that's probably what I was going to do, to trap this bishop in. Okay, but he wisely plays e6, which I think was smart. Okay, so bishop a3 to put the pressure here is interesting. There's queen a5, though, which is a really good move, I think, for black. And so I don't want to do that because of that. So I am leaning towards rook b1, which I talked about earlier. It's a nice place for my rook. Yeah, I think I will do that. There's queen a5. It's going to get a little bit interesting. So actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and castle first, get my king to safety, and then I'll probably play rook b1. I just didn't want the queens, you know, starting to invade and maybe take a bunch of pawns. So having my king out of the potential check, I think makes a lot of sense. Most likely, I'm not going to castle queenside anyway, right? That doesn't seem like a good idea. This is where my king is going to be. So go ahead and do that. And now we can decide on the rook and the bishop. Yeah, knight c6, probably a good move. He is threatening to take here, which would win a pawn. So I can defend, or I can try to think about counterattacking. For example, rook b1 looks pretty good. Just a little in-between move to get the rook into an aggressive place. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Well, that being said, he takes, I take. He does have this move knight e5, which is actually a really good move to defend the checkmate. Because what I was thinking is rook b1, I take. I have more powerful threats, but actually takes knight e5 is a pretty good move for black. So, do I want to defend? Is the question. Yeah, this is actually a tricky position. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It's not a position that I'm super familiar with. So we'll just do the best we can here. Bishop e3 just feels awkward. I mean, yes, you defend the pawn, but do I really want my bishop sitting here? It just seems really passive. I would like to play a more aggressive move like queen g4. Defend this way. Also put pressure, maybe threaten bishop g5. Like that seems like more the kind of move that I would want to play. Oh, you know what? Okay, hold on. I actually am going to play rook b1. So I said before I was afraid of this, but now what I'm noticing is this. Takes, takes, takes. There's this move bishop b5 check, which I think would cause black some big problems because you don't really want to move your knight here. You get checkmated, you move here, now you're in a pin. It's really bad news. Okay, so yeah, they play probably a good move. Just defend. Yeah, so I guess at this point I will go queen g4. I'm trying to defend, but also do it in an aggressive way. There's this move h5, which I think is probably a good move for black. We'll see if they find that one. And then I'm going to have to just move my queen maybe to f4 or something. Or even g3 and sacrifice a pawn and see what happens there. I'm not totally sure. But we'll start with this. The other thing about getting the queen out of the way of this is I could throw this pawn forward. Since black doesn't appear to be castling anytime soon, f4, f5, and takes here, that looks extremely dangerous for the king. Okay, he goes queen a5. He's attacking this. I wonder if now is the moment. f4, f5. Do we just throw this pawn forward and go after the king? We're going to lose some pawns in the process. But you know what I could do? I could play f4, queen takes. I could go bishop to b2 to defend d4 so he doesn't force a queen trade. Once the queen moves, then we go f5 and we continue to attack. That looks pretty good, actually. Yeah, I like that. Let's do it. Let's do it. f4, here we go. And the reason I'm not just totally ignoring this and playing f5 right away is because queen takes here would be a forced queen trade. And that's not what you want when you're trying to attack. Oh, he goes for the a pawn. Yeah, I wasn't really worried about the a pawn. It does attack my rook, so I will probably have to deal with that. I say probably because you never know. Maybe I could play f5, lose the rook, take here. If he takes, we invade with the queen, check, bishop e7 or knight e7. Yeah, maybe it's too much, but almost worth it. Okay, so yeah, let's actually move the bishop somewhere. d2 or e3. Let me go to e3 so it adds support to d4, and it defends my rook. Okay, but now I'm in a pretty nice situation because look at this. Everything's kind of defended, and black's queen is off to the side over here and not really going to be able to help support the king when I launch my attack with f5. Okay, so now the question is, if black plays g6, what do we do? Because g6 is kind of how you're going to try to stop f5. Now it creates, yeah, there you go. It creates the dark square weaknesses though. So I either have the option of trying to invade along the dark squares somehow, or I just bust through with the bishop sacrifice, which is what I'm leaning towards, actually. That's what I'm leaning towards. But here's the thing. If I don't attack here, what am I going to do? This is the only area of the board where I really am set up to attack. So I have to make it work. I have to. And yeah, I'm pretty sure bishop is the way to do it. So we're going to take with the bishop just to clear the pawn so that my queen and rook can start creating some serious threats. We also have this bishop. We also have this pawn. We also potentially have another rook if we need it. And black is not developed. I mean, look at black's pieces, right? So you have to understand these moments of like, this is the moment. It's more important that I keep the attack going rather than hold on to my bishop. Yes, I lost a piece here, but look at his king, right? This is how you have to play chess. Stockfish might disagree. Stockfish might say, no, black has this amazing way to defend, but from a practical standpoint, you can't, you can't pass up these opportunities. Okay, so I think we take here with a check. Just keep the attack going. So let's look at our options. We have e6 is one option. We have bishop g5 is another option. Don't know if there's any other ones. Those seem like the most obvious. So let's start with the check. Check. Where's the king go? If you come up here, you're in trouble. So you don't want to do that. You probably don't want to run up to c6. You don't want to go there. You're in trouble. So you're probably going to go back to here or here. Yeah, if you go here, the queen invades. So it's pretty much going to be king d8. Only move that I see. And then I guess we just go bishop g5 or maybe even bishop f4. We just keep the pressure. You can even go bishop f4 first, which is not totally crazy. No, I want to go e6 because I don't want to allow the rook to come over and the king to get on the other side of it. Yeah, let me go e6. So king d8, pretty much only move. We have to move quickly here. So I guess I'll just go bishop g4. Or bishop f4. Ooh, bishop g5 is actually good because I'm threatening bishop f6, which traps the rook. Yeah, there's some really interesting tactics here. I mean, I assume he's not going to go to c6. Maybe this is a move for black, but that just looks really... I can't imagine that anybody would play that. Okay, yeah, king d8. Okay, do we attack and then go here? It's not the same. I think we need to pin the knight. Here's why the knight needs to be pinned. Because when I go bishop f6 and attack the rook and it tries to run, guess what? I'm going to take it. Because the knight's going to be pinned. Okay? So that's why I think here is better than f4. Now f4 is pretty good too because I could maybe invade on d6 and who knows what was going to happen there. But this seems like a pretty clear plan. Oh, okay. Oh, but that's a blunder. You guys see why it's a blunder? For one, I could just take it right now. I could also take here. Yeah, I'll just take it. Because once we take this, now the bishop's undefended and we're just busting through. So you see how the little tactic there was what I needed to make this attack work. And yeah, black is in trouble at this point. Okay, so there's the checkmate. We can take with the rook. We can take with the queen. Doesn't really matter. I'll go with the rook. And that is a really great example, actually. Really great example of how sometimes you have to sacrifice to keep the attack going at the critical moments in the game. All right, let's check the game review. Update the win counter over here. And we'll actually analyze that position just a little bit because that was an interesting one. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, I'm not showing you guys. Sorry about that. 69. So clearly we missed some things in that one. Let's take a look at this. There was a brilliant move. Let's start with the brilliant move, I guess. I assume it's bishop takes f5. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So that was the brilliant move, sacking the piece. Great. So yeah, let me go back just for a second here. And right at this moment, yes, this is where I don't really understand these positions that well. Stockfish says taking this pawn is the best move. This is not a move that personally I would ever really consider playing, because look at my pawn structure. I mean, this looks awful. This looks so bad. Why would I allow the bishop to come out? This is weak. These are weak. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. But Stockfish says, no, this is the way, because now you attack over here. It's awkward for black to defend. They have to go king f8. And yeah, I don't think I was going to play that. So I went a little bit wrong here. And even here, Stockfish said, just go bishop d2. Yeah, it's one of those, why would you go bishop d2? I don't even know. Like, what's the deal? We're just giving up this pawn? Aha. Some crazy queen. Look at that. It's a queen trap. That's what Stockfish wanted. They wanted this to be defended because now the queen is trapped. I mean, amazing. Okay. Anyway, f5 was the second Stockfish choice. And the idea of sacrificing was on the list. Okay. And this is very difficult for black to defend. They had to go bishop e7. And then they had to go king d8. And then this is how they're surviving, apparently. But anyway, back to the game just for a brief moment. Yeah, it did like bishop f4 first for some reason. I was afraid that maybe the rook comes over somewhere and then the king sneaks around behind. Oh, the rook is here. Yes, forgot about that. So that's why Stockfish wanted that. So very, very tricky position. A lot to think about with only a couple minutes on the clock. But even still, you saw how at the end of the day, we just ended up with a basic mistake, right? And this is usually what happens, even at higher levels. When you are attacking someone like this, and you've got their king in trouble, you've got pieces all over the place, they're gonna make some kind of mistake, usually, right? And that's why a lot of times it makes sense to sacrifice the piece and attack, okay? But in this particular case, even if they didn't make the mistake, it's a winning position for white. All right, let's keep going. Go to the next game. And we are white again. Let me see what's on the list here. Oh, we didn't get a chance to play it last time. Let me start with d4 this time, maybe mix it up a little bit. d4, d5. You know what? We will do, we have a Colle. We have the Colles on our list. So let's go for a Colle system. So the Colle, you put your knight on f3, your pawn on e3. You leave the bishop back here. Whenever you see c5, usually you're going to go c3. And so you make this pawn pyramid, just like the London system, with the key difference being that our bishop stays back here. Okay, so you don't have any problems on b2. If the queen comes over here, you don't even worry about that. And what you're going to do now is go bishop to d3. You're going to go knight b to d2. You're going to castle. Yep, very good. And the order of these is, you know, you could kind of mix this up, but I'll go knight here first and then castle. You could do castles first. Doesn't really matter in most cases. Whenever they take, you want to take this way. You want to take this way. And the reason for that is, number one, it opens up the bishop. And number two, it keeps the square guarded so the knight or the bishop can't come in and cause you problems. Okay, so we're going to go to castle. And the idea behind the Colle is usually to play rook e1 or queen e2 and play e4. In this case, since we've taken back, we don't need to play e4. We've already kind of opened up the position. But the idea is usually to attack on the king side. And so the question is, how do we do that? So I'm going to start with rook e1. I want to try to prevent black from playing e5, because that's kind of how they really break open the position. And so I'm adding as many pieces there as I can. I was thinking about jumping my knight in. I'm actually still thinking about jumping the knight in. Looks like they're relocating the knight over here. I could relocate my knight back like this, but I think I want to just jump in on e5. Because if I go knight e5, then this knight can go to f3. That's a good way to keep the attack going. I'm trying to think if there's any other way. I mean, knight f1 is actually not out of the question because it allows the bishop to immediately come to the party. But I think here looks pretty good. Yeah, I'm going to jump into e5. This is generally the way to do it. And so we'll stick with kind of the normal plan here. Queen c7. Okay. So, yes, there's a battery here, but not really concerned. I think what I do is just support my knight. Just play knight f3. And this is a multi-purpose move of brings the knight to a more aggressive square, supports e5, and unblocks my bishop to where my bishop is ready. So you can notice, look at these guys. We have a very aggressive position, okay? Probably going to take with the knight. Taking with the rook is not totally crazy because maybe I could use that to attack. Taking with the pawn is not totally crazy either because it annoys this knight. But just having my knight on e5 just looks really powerful. Yeah, it's actually a tough question for me because both of these moves have very nice ideas. Because like this knight, actually, you know what? Okay, here's what I'm thinking. Initially, my instinct was like, look, just take with the knight. That's a great outpost for the knight. But now I'm thinking, if I chase this knight away, let's just say hypothetically it goes back to d7. I might even be able to just do a Greek gift sacrifice right now. Knight g5. Queen h5 checkmate. That's what I'm thinking. Can the knight block me? Well, yes, but then you lose a pawn. Can you go over here? Yes, but then h3 and your knight is basically trapped. g4, yeah, it's actually really bad for black. So, normally I would take this way. But because I have such a powerful follow-up after I chase the knight away, I'm going to change my plan. And here we go, knight to d7. Okay? So Greek gift sacrifice. You take with the bishop. You play knight g5 check. If the king goes back, you try to checkmate. Probably the best move for the king is to come out, but that's still going to be super dangerous. Queen g4, and it's, yeah. The only thing is if there is a way for them to stop the checkmate. Let's say the rook goes over, check knight. No, it's too dangerous. So here, again, it's a situation where I'm not necessarily sure this is going to lead to checkmate. I don't see a clear checkmate. But what I do see is that I'm going to get an amazing attack. I'm going to get an amazing attack one way or the other. So if you see that you're going to get an amazing attack, you don't have to calculate that it's forced checkmate. I mean, if you're able to do that because you're like a grandmaster or you're really good at calculating, by all means, do it. But you might just calculate enough to see, it's pretty good. Let's see what's going to happen, right? And then you play chess from there. So don't be afraid to do that. This is very different than blundering a piece, right? I'm not talking about it's okay to lose pieces willy-nilly. I'm talking about when you sacrifice to get a nice attack, that's totally fine. Do it. Okay, so here we go. I think maybe we'll look at it with Stockfish after. Maybe king g6 was the best move to try to survive because it stops queen h5 at least. But now I'm just coming in for checkmate. So the only move for black is to move this rook away to give the king somewhere to run. And then when I go here, you block with the knight. So I don't see a checkmate. Oh, actually, you know what? The problem with that is then I take here. So this is a really good example of I didn't see this before, but I saw that I was at least getting an attack. And now as the position becomes clearer in my mind, I'm noticing that if the rook moves, I don't even have to actually go there. I could just take here, and that looks even better for me. Okay? So the details have changed, and black is actually in trouble. You see all the pieces are just stuck over there. You can't really stop this. You have to move the rook, and then I just come in like this. So check, king's going to move. I could even take this and get the queen and threaten checkmate here. I mean, there's so many good moves. So see if black can come up with anything else, but it doesn't look like it. Okay, so he goes for knight f6 to at least temporarily stop, but the problem with that, obviously, as you guys can tell, is the pawn is still here, so we'll just take the knight. And still have the issue of checkmate there. So yeah, whenever you play an opening like the Colle or really any d4 opening where the bishop's on d3 and they castle, actually, it didn't just have to be a d4 opening, but if the bishop's on d3 and they castle, the Greek gift sacrifice is super, it's a really nice idea to just keep in the back of your mind, okay? All right, let's check the game review here. Oh, 99.2 with the Colle. Look at that. Brilliant move, no mistakes. All right, very nice. Now, it helps when they, make a mistake like that, and it's just sort of an easy way to get to a quick checkmate, but still pretty nice game there. Okay, let's check the brilliant move. Bishop takes h7, of course. And so, yeah, Stockfish agreed that, normally in a situation like this, you would want your knight to occupy that square. But in this case, this was such a powerful threat that it was better to kind of break the rule a little bit and force the knight to move. Okay, now on bishop takes here, let's see. I think, yeah, the best move for black was king g6, which is a lot of the times true for the Greek gift sacrifice, because you have no response when you go back, right? Like we saw in the game, there's just nothing to do. So when you go to g6, at least you stop that. Now, I was going to go queen g4. Yeah, and then the usual approach is something like f5 to try to hit the queen. And then it's tricky. You can go here, you can go here, you can en passant, but then the knight comes in, and it's not that simple. It's still good for white, but it's not that simple. Okay? And then, like I mentioned, initially I thought they could escape because I was calculating in my mind this line. And they block. But even here, I'm like, this is still a really good position for me, right? I have a knight. I have this annoying pawn. Maybe my bishop can come into the party, or my rook, or like, it's still a great position. Knight h7 check, and I take here. And if you can see that at least you're getting an attack, go for it, right? And then I noticed later, like I said, during the game, queen f7. So it was even better. Okay, next game, let's go. All right, we're black e4. Let me go with e5 again, I guess. Just getting a pawn out there in the center. d3. Okay, so that's not really anything that I'm concerned about. Usually my default moves are bringing out both knights, and so I'll do that. h3. Wow. Let's just develop our pieces. I'm not going to worry about this. Bishop g5. Okay. So there's a couple ways we could do this. Number one would be bishop e7 to break the pin. You could also go for a more aggressive approach, bishop c5. Bishop c5 is interesting because it sets up for a very nasty trap, and I don't know if I've ever done this with black. Yeah, I'm going to do it, actually. I'm going to go here, and we're hoping for some move like a3. Like a3 would be amazing. He doesn't do it. We were looking for a legals mate trap, but this is totally fine. We still have a checkmate threat, which he deals with. Okay. I'm thinking about knight to d4, because if they take, we take back, and we still have this really powerful threat. If they don't take and play bishop e2, we could get the bishop pair, which looks pretty good. They play something like knight b to d2. That would probably be white's best move. And then I don't know. Could also play a move like d6 just to let the bishop out. But I kind of like this. Now, normally the rule is you want to develop first, finish developing before you go on an attack. But when your opponent does stuff like this and kind of creates some of these weaknesses, sometimes you have to bend that rule a little bit. That's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to actually put the pressure on while they've wasted some time, essentially. Okay, and they're not really threatening anything, so I'm gonna have time to castle and move this guy into the game when I'm ready. Plays bishop e2, and so I think I will maybe just grab the bishop pair here. Okay, so we got two bishops against two knights, and right now it might not look like that's so great, but just watch as the game goes on. When the position opens up, you're going to see the power of these two bishops. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my king to safety. Let's go ahead and castle. And then I'm going to start thinking about how can I open up the position. Okay, I think c6 is a good way because I want to strike with d5 and just sort of open things up. So yeah, c6 looks good. d6, okay, but I don't have a clear spot for my bishop to go. b6, it seems kind of weird. I think c6 is the way to do it. By the way, somebody brings out a knight. Very easy way to stop it from moving forward. Just push your pawn up. Super handy little trick. Ooh, castle's the other way. Okay, so now we have an interesting situation. Let's talk about this for a little bit. My king's on this side of the board, and his king's on this side of the board. Usually what that means is you want to watch out for pawn storms, okay? Pawn storms are when somebody just throws their pawns forward and tries to attack your king, okay? I could do it over here. He could do it over here. And the reason you have to watch out for this when kings are on opposite sides is because obviously he has no risk to doing this. It doesn't affect his king at all. If his king was castled and he starts throwing these pawns forward, it's going to be more risk than benefit for him, right? But in this case, he has no risk. He might as well. Same thing for me. I might as well throw these forward. What else am I going to do, right? So you get these very unbalanced positions where one side is attacking, the other side is attacking. And usually you want to be the first one to attack. Otherwise, you have to make sure you're good at defending, right? Which is tough for some people. So I think b5 and throwing these pawns forward actually is a very legitimate strategy here. Okay. Yeah, I think I might just do that. b5 and just start trying to attack. I mean, d5, like rook d8 and d5, yeah, that doesn't look so good because you're going to be losing pawns here. Yeah, I'm going to go with b5. Now that I know where his king is going to be, I think it makes a lot of sense. We'll just attack. Yeah, and he's going to get ready to do the same thing, which I think is smart. All right, so here's a very important opportunity. Should I push b4 immediately? What do you guys think? Well, I'm going to say no, and what I'm going to do is play a5, and I'm trying to get my pawn on a4 before I push so that the knight can't go there. Okay, so going back to this position, if I pushed immediately, the knight's just going to jump here. Now I have to move my bishop, and the knight's actually blockading my other pawn from coming forward, and it's kind of annoying. But what I'm going to do instead is push my pawn to a4 first. I'm going to ignore this right now. And now when I play b4, he can't go there because my rook is involved. See that? So this is a great way. If you're going to pawn storm, you want to make sure you do it in the right order. Otherwise, your pawn storm can just kind of fizzle out and you don't really get an attack. All right, so he's attacking my queen. I do have to obviously respond. Can't take that, can't take that. I can go check. I don't really want to trade queens, but no, then I would get a free knight, so that would be fine. Yeah, so he'd probably have to move. My queen is sitting on f4. Is that a good square for my queen? That's pretty good. The other option is queen e6. Now, I'm not going to take that. That's irrelevant. I don't care about that. But what I might consider is this pawn. And then my queen comes into the attack a bit more than if it's on f4. Oh, you know what? I just noticed something. Let's just say I go queen f4, king p1, and then I attack, right? White has an amazing move. Do you guys see White's amazing move in that position? Imagine with me. Queen here, king here, b4. What is White going to play? I mean, I don't know if they would play, but what could they play? Rook g4. Traps my queen, guys. Traps my queen. Look at this. Can't go there, can't go there. Can't take it because the pawn. Can't go there because that. Can't go there, can't go there. Totally trapped. Haha. So, I'm going to avoid that and go queen e6 instead. Very, very sneaky move. Rook g4. Now, I don't necessarily know that my opponent was setting that up. I just noticed that it's there, and so I am going to avoid that. But wow, what a move. Now, I would have had time if I didn't play b4. Ooh. Wow. Okay. That's not a good move, and the reason is because he's just making my job easy, right? I wanted to attack the king anyway. Now you're just making it easy for me. I have en passant if I want. I don't even have to I could just take it with the bishop. Which one's better? Maybe en passant, actually, because then the rook is involved. Maybe he wants to take this way. Yeah, actually, they're both so good. Wow, what do you even do in a case like this? Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, you want to make sure that the rook is activated, so I kind of want to just go ahead and get that out of the way. This is also very good because then I'm threatening just to take the knight. I'm threatening to take the pawn if the knight moves and just keep pushing forward. What would he play? Do you defend it with the queen? Then I take, queen comes in, queen b2. If I take here and he takes back this way, then I go bishop b4. Wow. I don't even know. I'm going to just take the pawn like this. I don't even know. They both look really good for different reasons. So rather than waste all my time, sometimes, you just play one. Maybe it's not the best, but at least you save your time and the game goes on. It's still a very good move. I can see that. And I can see very clearly that there's going to be easy ways to attack. I would have liked to have the rook involved, but I think that I can play b4 and b3 and the rook will come later. So I'm happy with this right now. One of the things that you'll notice his pawn storm, he didn't really have too many pieces to attack. I mean, I guess the queen was one, but I had the knight to kind of harass, and so I just felt like that was a nice target. Usually the knights are kind of good targets when you're pawn storming to like harass with pawns. King d2, man. All right, so he's obviously walking into a pin, so this is no longer defended, so we could take that. But what I'm really thinking about doing is trading to lure the king out. Yeah, that's what I'm really thinking about. I mean, I could also just take, and then if the rook moves, I just go something like queen b2, and I don't see how he's going to save the knight. That might even be better. That might even be better. Yeah, maybe I will just do that. But also queen here to come in like this. Oh, he disconnected. Unfortunate. All right. Yeah, I think it was over anyway. I'll go ahead and take on a2. Oh, he's back. Okay. I'm not really so much worried about the pawn here. I'm more concerned with how do I attack this knight again, because it's pinned. And he can't really move the king or the knight gets captured. Yeah, he goes for that. So this is why I really wanted to go here, because now this move. And that knight is a goner. The knight's a goner. Okay? He can bring the rook over, but it doesn't matter. I just take this. So, and I will take with the queen, not the bishop, because I don't want my queen to be trapped. If like king b1, my queen would be trapped again. So I'm going to take with the queen. Second queen trap that we've seen, by the way. Rook b1, bishop takes, king d1. Queen is trapped. That's amazing. Yeah, so I'll take this way. But look at the queen. It can't defend. The knight can't defend. Rook can't defend. I just take it. And yeah, he tries to run. I believe we'll take with the queen because I want to go bishop c5 next. And he pushes. Okay, this is almost checkmate. Not quite. But it looks like he has to play knight to d4, which is an awful move. And so let's go with bishop c5 check. Can't move the pawn. It's pinned. King has no moves. So only move knight to d4. I don't really want to let the king run back that way. So I think I'm going to take with the bishop. Notice it's going to force it into line with my rook. Yep. And here we go. We're going to take this way now with the rook. And this is just an amazing position for us. Okay. So the king has to go. Ooh. What else do you guys notice? We had the discover check. We have another discover check with the bishop coming in. Look at this. Is that the best thing? Probably. Let's do it. Let's do it. Because I'm gaining space in the center. I'm activating another piece. And I'm doing it with tempo, with check. Everything about it, you know, is really good. Okay, look at this. Wow. Probably can win a queen here. Let's see. He does have this move, but that looks like it's going to lead to a checkmate. Yeah, we'll go ahead and jump in with the bishop. Look at this. Got to go king g5 or sacrifice the queen. Those are the only options. And then what do you guys think? How do I finish off the game here? How do I finish off the game? Man, it's actually maybe not that simple. I feel like it should be simple, but I'm just not totally seeing it. Yeah, interesting. Okay, I think I see how. I'm gonna go. What I'm gonna do, guys, is go bishop d7, and the reason is I'm setting up h6 check. Notice the king can't go backwards. Okay, can't go backwards. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. So when I play h6, you have to take me, and then I can go bishop e8 checkmate. That's actually checkmate because if you look carefully, we've got the rook here. We've got this defended by our king, so we end up with this. We've got this pawn and this. So the only things that we need to control are these squares, which is what bishop e8 does. Nice checkmate, right? Nice checkmate. All right, good game. Check the game review on that one. 86, so pretty good. Not too bad. And yeah, I don't think we need to talk too much about that one. It was relatively straightforward. Didn't really get a chance to see the bishop pair in action. I mean, you did at the end, but it wasn't quite what I was thinking. But you did get to see the opposite side castling and how to attack, which I think was a nice little lesson there. So, okay, let's go with, let's see, we played the Colle last time. Let me go for a, I have so many openings I want to play here. Let's go for another Halloween Gambit. Let's try for a Halloween Gambit. We need to see knight to f6 here. Ooh, queen f6. Okay. What do you do when you see somebody's queen come out early? What do you do? Well, usually the answer is you attack it. So I'm going to attack it. And I'm also threatening a fork. So guess what black has to do? Yeah, they have to go back. Exactly. So that was a waste of time. I got this move essentially for free. And when you get free moves like that, usually you want to kind of keep the pressure up. And so what am I going to do? Just bust open the center. I have the lead in development. Black wasted some time, so I'm going to just be aggressive here with the center. Now, lots of options here. I mean, tons of options. Bishop b5. Bishop b5 is an option. Bishop c4 is an option. Bishop g5 is an option. Taking is an option. Bishop e2 might be an option. I don't know. Like, let's start with the obvious. What if I take? You take me. I have a good move after that. It's okay, but maybe not that great. Bishop g5. They're probably going to just go bishop e7 or something. I could get the bishop pair. Okay. Bishop b5. Pinning. Bishop c4. Actually, bishop c4 looks nice. I like, because it gives me the ideas of maybe knight g5 and maybe moving this guy and taking. And it just sort of sets up tactics. Like a lot of times tactics, you got to have to set them up by having your pieces in certain places. That's what I feel like bishop c4 does for me. So I'm going to go there. Just getting ready for those tactics. Okay. And we might see something here. Knight g5. If he takes me, I take back. That's not easy to deal with, actually, guys. So yeah, I'm really liking knight g5 here. Bishop g5 is not crazy either, but bishop e7 looks like a nice way to defend everything. They have a nice way to defend everything. You probably have something better. I don't see an easy way for black to defend against this. Yes, I might lose a pawn, but in return, it looks really good. I guess the other thing I could do is trade first. No, but then the knight might take. Yeah, all right. Let me let's sack a pawn. We'll sack a pawn and we'll go on the offensive here. And again, this is, you know, the general rule is developing castle before you go on the attack. But I'm basically saying, look, I think black is behind because they wasted the queen moves going back and forth. The way that I keep up the pressure is by threatening stuff now. So I'm sort of bending that rule to do that, okay? So bishop e6. This is where we start looking for tactics, right? This is where we just kind of calculate stuff here. Wow. So what I'm thinking is we take with a check. Okay, I think we do have a tactic here, guys. See if you can find it. Starting with taking with the knight. All right, if you had a chance to look at that, pause if not. Basically, what I'm thinking is if the pawn takes me, then I'll take the bishop. Because my knight was being attacked. Okay, I'll take the bishop. He takes me, and then bam, I jump in. I win a pawn, and my bishop is just amazing. Very happy with that. Okay. If the queen takes, I was going to say, look, there's a piece there. I'm going to push forward and get a fork. My knight's defended, and I'm very happy. So there you go. I think that's the tactic. I think it's that simple. Just 2 moves to calculate, right? He only has 2 moves. 1, 2. And whenever you see pieces in this kind of configuration and you have a pawn, here we go. It's a fork, right? It's a fork. And I don't know if there's anything else that I need to really think about it. That just looks like the way to go. So here we go, d5. I mean, it's important, right, that there's no checkmate here. Obviously, there's no bishop sitting there. This is defended. Those are details that matter, but since everything checks out, it's just a simple fork. Oh, you know what? There's a... Oh, okay, there is knight a5. which I did not consider. Knight a5 is interesting because it's a counterattack. However, takes, you're still getting in big trouble if I take that. Or bishop check, no, then bishop d7. So yeah, black, it's not that simple because the knight might get trapped too. Yeah, it's very, very tricky position. But looks like on knight a5, I would still be in good shape. I mean, and you guys can see how quickly, bringing out the queen early without a clear follow-up just really doesn't make a lot of sense. H6. Okay, interesting move. What should I do about that? What do you guys think? Well, option one would be I could trade for the bishop. Actually, that's totally fine because when the pawn recaptures, I could take the knight. So that's actually a very good option. The other option is I could just move it back and keep the fork, and then I'm happy. But maybe the forcing move of taking and then taking the knight is the best. Yeah, I guess because it trades some pieces, gets a little closer to the end game. I'll go with that one. So we get a piece, we lose a knight, but then we get the knight over here. But at the end of the day, we still win a piece, which is what we're trying to accomplish. I don't know if knight f3 maybe was a little bit better. It's hard to say. They both look good. This also weakens the h5 e8 diagonal, so we can keep an eye on that. But for now, I want to make sure that I get my piece, so I'll go ahead and take that guy. Okay. So we're up a piece, but the game is not over. We still have to continue on. So how do we do that? Well, develop, castle. Castling looks pretty good. Add support here, so we don't have to worry about any shenanigans there. Bishop e3 looks pretty good. Now, the only thing about bishop e3 I'm wondering is there's a lot of pawns here in the center. If he starts throwing these pawns forward, d4, that might be annoying. So I think I would rather go ahead and get my king to safety. Hold off just a second on that bishop, and we'll see, is black going to do this or something else, and we'll go from there. They have, so many pawns right here in the center. It's pretty funny, actually. But now that my king's castled, we could just think about trading and using this file to attack the king. Could just go back, assuming the black is going to play d5. Yeah, they do. Okay. Yeah, and I will go ahead and trade just because my king is safe. Their king is in the center. Because of that, the more trading and things that I can remove from here, the easier it is for me to attack the king. All right. You could even make an argument here, actually, that sacrificing the bishop to get rid of those pawns is the way to go. And how would the rook deal with that is my question. Rook d8. Yeah, I'm just not quite ready for a follow-up. But in some, cases, that would be a good move. In this case, I don't think it's worth giving up my bishop, so I am going to keep it. The question is where. I think I'll go back to b3. I don't really want to go here and block the e-file. Maybe there I get chased around. I don't know. Seems like a safe place. Also shuts down any ideas of the rook. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, interesting. I think I'm going to go queen h5 because it looks like black's about to castle, and then they have a decent setup, even though they're down a piece. Queen h5 is very annoying because they either have to allow me to trade queens, which gets me closer to the endgame where I'm up a piece, or they have to play something like g6, which just creates more weaknesses around where they might be castling. So I'm going to go here, and the reason I'm going here is I'm anticipating that they really want to castle. But if they do, guess what? I'm coming in. They can't castle that way. Okay, so they're trying to stop that. They also can't castle this way. And so the king's in the center, right? Which is a dangerous place for it to be. Okay, so what do we do now? Really would like to play bishop to g5. Really would like to play that. So I could consider queen g3. I do walk into e4 though. I could consider f4 here just to kind of open things up. Try to get at the king. Doesn't look too terrible. What else can we do? Yeah, queen g3. Then there's e4. I could go queen g5. Just not so bad. I kind of like the look of that. Let's do it. Let's do it. Basically, like, if we go into an endgame, it's pretty easy when you're up a piece, right? So I'm happy with the queen trade. Also, wow. Okay. I was not expecting that. Looks like a mistake. Looks like bishop g5 wins material. Yeah. It just looks that simple. There is e4, but that doesn't really work because I just take the queen and then take the bishop. Or maybe even take a rook. Yeah. I mean, no reason to get fancy. Queen h3, queen f5. You could do that and trade and then take a rook, but this is just the simplest. Take the queen. And normally I would take the bishop because if you have to choose between, okay, do I win an exchange or do I win a free piece? The free piece is better. Just taking the bishop is better. But in this case, I think I can actually get away with taking the rook because if black tries to take... Excuse me. Because if black tries to take me, I still take the bishop. So this is a bit different, but normally I would have taken this. But in this case, I think we get away with this. Yeah, he sacks for a pawn, but I still get the piece. So that's pretty good. I ended up getting a rook, essentially. Okay, so we're way ahead material. The pawns are kind of annoying, though. So let's see if we can figure out a way to kind of bust through. Let me go f3 just to kind of weaken these guys or maybe trade them off. I want to open up files so that my rooks can operate. Okay, with the files all closed, my rooks can't get through, right? Yeah, that's fine. We'll just line up on it. No big deal. We'll line up on this guy if he pushes. Yep, no big deal. And on c5, we'll play c3. This is what you do. You just undermine. You just keep undermining. And it's easy because I'm up so many pieces, right? It's a little bit more complicated when black has more pieces, but it's the same kind of concept. If they overextend the pawns, you just attack them, and eventually they get weak, and you win the pawns. That's the idea. I'm expecting rook d8. I will probably just trade. No, he doesn't do that. Okay. Well, we just take, and this is now very weak. Okay. What do? Attack the pawn, right? I could also go here, take these guys, but this is the pass pawn. I'm just going to start here because that's the most dangerous thing to me, right? The biggest potential threat that black has is if this becomes a queen. So I'm just going to go ahead, remove that right away, and then I'll worry about this other stuff later. Good habit when you're low on time as well, right? Just don't give your opponent any sneaky tricks that might cause you problems, okay? So we just take that. Very good. And now it's, time to munch on the pawns, basically. Just go here. Looks like a great place to get a bunch of pawns. Take that one first. And you don't have to take everything. I'm just going to clean up some of them. And now I think is a good time. I'll just go here. Get a queen. Get checkmate. Win the game. And sometimes what I like to do is just sacrifice to simplify, make things easy. And that's what I'm going to do here. I will go ahead and take this. Now, you have to make sure it's not a stalemate. Can't go there, can't go there, can't go there, can't go. Oh, but he does have this square on a3, so it's not stalemate. It's fine. That's super important. You don't want to get a draw in a game like this where you're totally winning. Now we will go get the queen. Again, let's make sure if I get a queen, is it stalemate? No, I see that he can move some places, so we're fine. Okay. So, you know, when they're on the edge of the board, that's great. You want to keep them there. So you want to look for moves like this and then checkmate. So I can't go there with the rook. He just takes me. I can go here with the queen. The only issue is what? Is it a stalemate? No, it's not a stalemate. He has a square to go to, so it's fine. And we have checkmate. So there you go. And good game to our opponent. All right. Let's check the game review on this one. Looks like it was pretty well played. 92. Yeah, not too bad. Okay, cool. All right, guys. So we are 979, approaching that 1,000 mark. And I hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time. Every week this video comes out, and we're going to just keep going up the rating ladder. So thank you, guys. I'll see you next time. Stay sharp, play smart, and take care.